Hey guys, um, welcome back to my channel. This is Fallen Angel, and this is another what I'm thankful for. And today, I am going to talk about grandparents. Now, I'm going to give a few minutes to see if anybody would like to come in into the chat before I get started. And I hope everybody's having a good day, or good night, wherever you're at. Let's see if I can get the chat up on my side. Oops, I forgot to turn off my speakers. Sorry about that. Hello, Melanie. It is good to see you. I'm trying to pop out the chat because I don't always trust StreamYard's chat. So just bear with me. How are you doing tonight, Melanie? I want to welcome everybody coming into the chat. I appreciate you guys coming by. I hope everybody's having a good night or good day, whatever time it is right now in your area. Hi, Anna. Hi, Missy. How are you guys doing? And for some reason, the YouTube chat's not working, but the StreamYards is working. That's interesting. Try this again, see if it's going to pop up the way it needs to. It is good to see everybody. Hi, Julie. It is good to see you. I am doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. It's been kind of rough couple of days, but that's it's just one of them things, I guess. Can you guys hear me and see me okay? Oh, StreamYard's just right on top of it tonight. Welcome to the stream. Well, tonight I am going to talk about my grandparents. I'm thankful for um I'm thankful for my grandparents. Um have a lot of fond memories of my grandparents. Now I do have stories that were told to me about my grandfather, I call him my papa, because he passed away before I was born, and he died um, from cancer, well, complications from cancer, and I never really got to know him. All I know is stories about him. So, but I do have three grandfathers, two grandmothers, and it's totally okay. I get that a lot. I do that to myself too when I'm like, stupid autocorrect. And with my grandparents, I cherish the memories I have. Um, I'm going to start, of course, everybody's like ladies first. I'll talk about my grandmothers and then I'll talk about my grandfathers. My grandmother, I always called Mama. She always lived pretty close, and I was, I remember the her the most about summer times. She would come and pick up my mom on Fridays um, to go to the grocery store, and during the summertime or when we had off, and it never failed. It was almost every single Friday. Uh, we would go to the grocery. First, we'd go to Walmart and go get some things from there. Go talk to my aunt, who at that time worked at the Walmart. High Canadian Witches, and then we would always go to Winn Dixie, which used to be a store around here that shut down. Um, I think it was sometime in middle school, and I remember going sometimes with her by myself to the grocery store, and we'd be talking, and she'd be like, "Oh, there's that older gentleman. He looks pretty good. I wonder if he's got a grandson for you." Little teases like that. Hi, Jesse's Adventures in Trucking. I appreciate it. Hi, Chief. It's good to see you. Hi, Redbeard. Good to see you. And she would tease us like that. My grandmother would, my mom would tease us like that sometimes. It wasn't just me; it would be my sister. I remember having a few times having a Fourth of July get together during the summertime at her house, and it would be kind of interesting because we would have this old timey ice cream turner maker thing, and you would have to literally manually get this little arm to rotate and rotate forever. And the kids are like, "I don't want to do it. I want to do it." And all the grandkids would all take turns to turn the ice cream. And then she'd be sitting somewhere. She'd notice that we're still at it trying to make the ice cream, and everybody be laughing at us. Hi, awesome epic. It's good to see you, Jen. It's good to see you. Hi, Carrie Ann. And I think for my mama, one of my fondest memories is every year we would have a Christmas Eve dinner. All the family, my aunts, uncles, all my cousins would be there. and we would all bring a little something from each family, and we would all, it'd be ham and turkey and baked macaroni and cheese. It would homemade macaroni and cheese, and then there would be all kinds of stuff like deviled egg stuffing. Um, I think we had cranberry sauce a few times, and seasoned green beans, and just all kinds of things. And every year it would be the grandkids, while they're still kids, got presents, and everybody as adults had to draw names, and they would have to buy a Christmas present for that person for that year. And she actually was, she was a woman of many talents. One of the biggest things that I remember is she is or was a painter. You know, everybody talks about that famous painter. I think it's Bob something or another, who would be on PBS shows, and he would paint landscapes and different kinds of scenery, pictures. Well, she was always interested in that, and she would also paint, and she would paint houses with good background scenes, really good painter. She was a type that was, she could, if she really wanted to be stubborn, she would be. Hi, Hamilton Homegrown. It is good to see you. Um, yes, you're right, Jesse. Bob Ross. And every time I got to see her pictures, I wondered if she took them and done them, some of it by memory, or if she done them from an actual picture, because some of them seemed realistic, and it was just really totally cool. Um, we'd have little discussions here and there, and she would be really, um, in a way, pretty outgoing. There's nobody standing behind me, but yeah, my grandma, she was always one that I could look to for. Um, Actually, Hamilton, you didn't. No, good try, but I can see pretty good. And with my grandma, she always was one to teach me to stand up to people and show people that I am beyond what people actually see. Hi, Carol out of the comfort zone. It's good to see you. Because of um, the way my eyes are, she was, she knew that kind of run in the family, so she understood what I would be going through. And she has said, don't think nothing of them. It's their fault if they don't want to talk to an awesome person. And ever since then, I kind of always had something smart to say right back to them, or um, I would just overlook it because it is something that people don't understand. And she was the type that would kind of, she was outgoing to a certain extent, but then she's like, I don't know about this. You wouldn't catch me doing this. um, then she would, I remember sometimes the drives in her vehicle. She had a older vehicle. I don't remember what kind, make or model it was, but it was a straight drive. And I remember being in the vehicle, and we would have, of course, with it being older, and this is like in the 90s, it would start doing a little bit of jerking, but not too bad. And but she always believed in t- being a part of a family, always sticking together as family. And I mean, she always made that perfectly clear. Family's very important. Family should stick together and keep going. Work through your differences. And then there was when she passed, it was in October of 2003 when she passed. This at that time I was a senior in high school, and I remember feeling like I let her down because I didn't graduate before she passed. She didn't get to see me walk across the stage. Well, at the time I was working, well, not working, I was going to a church function. I believe it was camp at the time, and it was at the beach. And I had come back and got my mom's car. And she hands me an envelope, and it come from my aunt. And she said, you know, you might want to look at this. I don't know what it is. I didn't open it because I wanted you to open it. And my grandma, what had happened was my grandmother had saved a graduation card for me, so when I walked across the stage, she could give it to me. And she passed away before she could give it to me. And there was a note in it that my aunt had actually found the card, and that my grandmother was looking down on me when I walked across the stage, being really proud that her youngest granddaughter had actually graduated high school. That made me feel so good. So I still tear up sometimes about it because it was just like, how did she know I would graduate? How did she know that, when she bought the card, she actually bought it when she bought my sister a graduation card. So why? I mean, me and my sister are a year apart, so I didn't understand how she would have known and went ahead and got a card just for me. And that was a really special memory I had of her. I remember the biggest thing with her, she would like to make apple butter sandwiches. And that kind of got me started on wanting apple butter every so often. And she loved cardinals. She, at one point, she was painting cardinals in some of her paintings that she made. And around here, cardinals is our national bird. So anytime I see a cardinal, I tend to look and I see, I think of her. And I mean, it's been so long ago that she passed, but I still keep those memories of her with me. To me, she was never critical of me. And she was never critical of any of her family, and she would have given half of her mind out to somebody that would be upset in one of her family members. Excuse me. Okay. Um, Now, my other grandmother, she was really outgoing. And she used to be, when she was younger, a dancer. Not a professional dancer, but she used to go to schools for it, and she loved to dance. Anywhere and everywhere that they had a get together, she always wanted to go. And she was very, very smart. She always read newspapers, news articles. She would read books, and she would always watch like the different news stations. She loved holidays, just like my mama did. Um, Nana is what we called her. She always loved holidays, and she would decorate to the nines. The whole entire house would be smelling like cinnamon or pine, and she would have a realistic tree. Um, if she couldn't afford to get a real tree, she would get a artificial tree. But she hated having um, necessarily the artificial ones. And on her Christmas trees, you couldn't see a spot that didn't have an ornament, a memory or ornament, or a set of lights or something really special that meant a lot to her on the Christmas trees. There was times I remember, as an adult, she we got together one time and made Christmas cookies, which of course got half eaten before we got done baking all the cookies. And she was um I mean, like I said, she was very outgoing. She used to travel a little bit around. She uh, lived with a mom in New Jersey, raised my mom in New Jersey. And when my mom and one of my aunts moved down to North Carolina, so did she. And she always loved being close to the coast, but she also loved the mountains here. Hi, country girls, good to see you. And I mean, she enjoyed every place that she been to. Of course, there was ups and downs, not just the upside of everything. And my grandma, she was always open and honest about things. She always said what she thought, and she always told us we need to have very good um, get-togethers. And when she come down and she lived closer to me and my family, my parents, we would go over there for Thanksgiving, Easter, um, Christmas time. We would visit on like Mother's Day and Father's Day, of course. And there was also, because we do have some Irish heritage, St. Patrick's Day. And of course, she always made the traditional corned beef and cabbage for St. Patrick's Day. And we would have a blast over there. We would sit there and talk for hours. Like we'd spend like the whole entire afternoon if we could over there just visiting with her and my grandfather we call Pops. And she was the type that it always meant something to me to have her opinion on things, and she hated the job that oh, I hope you have a good night, Jesse. Or Scott, rather. Have a good night. Appreciate you stopping by. But my grandmother, she always had something to say, an opinion. I remember the first time I ever dyed my hair, not the color I would have picked for myself. My boyfriend at the time picked it, and it was a. I would have to say, you know what strawberry shortcake looks like? You know the doll that's got the really pinkish, reddish color hair? That's how my hair turned out. It was like a disco pink red color. And it matched a set of PJs I got for Christmas one year. And when my grandmother first seen it, she ended up she ended up telling me that it was a really nice color on me. Of course, I had everybody snickering behind my back, and I'm thinking, this ain't the right color. I wanted a natural color, not something, not nothing to stand out. But my grandmother's ended up taking up for me, saying she used to have hair like that, which made everybody laugh even harder at her. And she's always had this thing where she's like, you don't let yourself get stressed by other people, you stress them out, like trying to turn the tables on them. She didn't like she loved that I was in the healthcare field working. Um, if y'all don't know, I worked for 10 years as a caregiver for the mentally disabled and physically handicapped adults. She loved that I had that kind of job, but she hated where I was working at. Made her, it just made her cringe because um, every time we would, try to do a get together, always something come up. Jen, at least he didn't dye it black and look like a witch, and your mom handed you a broom. Yeah, I've never dyed my hair black. I've always had this thing about wanting to dye my hair red, and once I got used to dyeing my hair by myself, once a year, one time a year, I would dye my hair red, and in honor of my grandma, and she always loved my hair when I dyed it, no matter how it turned out. And I remember one of the last years I was able to get off. I got to spend a Thanksgiving with my grand Nana and Pops, and actually gave me a Christmas tree because at the time where I was living at, I had my own little separate apartment, but it was attached to the bigger facility where I could keep an eye on everybody, and I was right there on the grounds. And I didn't have a Christmas tree, so lights and all came with it. Got it all set up, and it it was a smaller tree, but it was a manageable type of tree. And she always told me uh, that things were not gonna always be the same. I think it was the year before she got really sick. Things are never going to be the same, but family is one of the most important things. Um, I remember growing up, I remember her going with my aunt to check to see if they needed to get remedial classes for getting their high school diploma. I don't think it was a GED, it was their high school diploma. And see, my grandmother, she married my grandpa in a time where women at couldn't, if they were married, they were not allowed to go back to school. So when she married my grandpa, she was she was young. She was about 15. She ended up she ended up having to quit school, and she raised 5 kids. And when my mom was 11, my grandpa and Nana split up, and then before I was even born, Nana married Pops. So that's how I've got 3 grandpas. My other grandfather, Papa, he he died before I was born. And see, Nana pretty pretty much tried her best to keep up with all the kids, my aunts and uncle. Um, there was a lot that happened within our family. Things, how life happens, but she always seemed to be happy. She always tried to be cheerful, and Christmas time was her one of her um, favorite holidays. And I think this was more summertime. They went to get her high school diploma. She passed the first test and got her high school diploma the first try. Didn't have to take classes. That's how smart she was right off the bat. She was very, very smart and very opinionated, and there was a lot of things. And I believe in the 50s and 60s, even into the 70s, it's really not. At the time it was not common. She ended up, once my grandparents split up, she ended up having to get a house by herself, and she had to get a job, or at least a couple jobs, and she still made it. She made it work, and I've always looked up to her for all the hard work that she done. Um, she was a very independent woman, and like I said, 50s, 60s, 70s, that was unheard of. It was very rare for a woman to be buying a house by herself, um, to be working, being a single mom. And she done everything that she could. And my mom said had done a great job. And let's see, there was a couple other things. I remember I kind of got the love of baking and cooking from her. She has, and I'll have it now, but she has a thick cookbook of different odds and ends that she would use to try different things, see if she can make it. And if she couldn't, she would just scrap the whole mess. Um, she was always inviting. If we were there, she would say, "Well, go get you something out of the kitchen. I just made this pie." Little stuff like that. And one of the biggest things, one of the reasons why I decided to do this stream when I did was um, this is the anniversary of when she passed, and that was about 5 years ago today. Well, technically yesterday, because it's just now past midnight now. But she knew she was loved. She at there at the very end, she was in worse shape, and if she had lived, she would have been really worse off if she survived and what she had progressed. So in a lot of ways, I'm thankful that she still had the memories of who I was and who my family was. Um, she always had my support. She always supported me in everything I done. And I remember it was a couple years ago, I think almost three rather. One of her favorite birds is a hummingbird. And she had this by this time, and she had passed a couple years, and I was kind of feeling lonely, and I had thought to myself, should my grandma would have given been able to give me a direction what I needed to say or do. And when as I was thinking that, I was sitting outside. Of course, I was smoking a cigarette, and a hummingbird comes by. At first, I thought it was a bug coming past me, and I'm trying to swat at it. And it wasn't that I was trying to hurt it, but this hummingbird hovered right in front of my face and just looked at me to the side like, "You know who I am. I'm here for a reason. I'm a messenger for you." And it just hovered there, just staring at me. And I'm like, something told me to say, "Hi, Nana." As soon as I did, the hummingbird got even closer, rubbing the wing on my cheek, flying. I could feel the wind pretty good, and I could feel the feathers on my cheek, and circled me one more time, and then it took off. That never happened again, but I always remember that. And I've always been told whatever favorite animal or different kind of bird, usually that is a message from that specific loved one that had passed. So I truly believe it was like she come to tell me, "Hey, I'm here for you. Just I'm listening. Just talk." And like she was always one to be open. She's like, "That's what grandmas are for." And I remember Christmas time, she would always make sure that we stayed warm. She would always have us a throw top blanket and a bathrobe so that way we stay warm. And for some I don't understand why she done that, but she always did. And I miss those days. I really do miss them. But I'm glad, and I celebrate that they're in to me because of my beliefs. I know that they are in a better place. Because if they had stayed, things might have gotten worse for them. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody. No. I appreciate that, Carrie. I mean, both my grandmothers, in their own way, they were both beautiful. Um, Mama was more of a southerner, southern hospitality, but she was very opinionated. And sometimes she didn't care who knew about it. She would tell it like it was. And my other grandmother, she was the type to, um, she would say it in a way that was kind of funny. She would be the type, she would tell her opinion, but she would make it known in a funny way. Both were very outgoing, sometimes very stubborn, but they both made a huge impact on me. And I am very thankful to have them and had them in my life. Now, my pawpaw was I believe it was Army, a World War II veteran. And I know there was sometimes I told about the history of the area that I lived in. My grandfather actually was born in an area where there used to be a cabin back in the back what in the backyard pretty much. And when his father had passed, he got a certain spot of land, which he ended up building his own house that my grandmother and my dad and my aunts lived on. It's to me at the time as I was growing up. I remember how beautiful it looked. My grandmother also loved gardening. Um, my nana and well, both my nana and my mama. My mama actually is the one that married Papa, but but yeah, I heard a lot of stories about my Papa. Um, he was well respected around here, in this area. There was a lot of people when he had passed, and they had a funeral for him. From what I understand, there was a lot of people that came um, to pay their respects. And he he's kind of like my dad in a way. As far as family, it's kind of hard to. Um, he was kind of rough around the edges with his family, but he was willing to help other people out. And he actually passed away from lung cancer. It was sad enough, but if he had lived in the way I look at it, if he had lived and I graduated high school, he would have been over 100 years old, something to that effect, or close to 100. I get my numbers mixed up sometimes. Um, Take care, Libra, and I'm gonna go into talking about my pops. My pops, he was a retired Navy sailor. He done a lot of things in the military. He retired from the military, and he also retired from civil service in the military. He stayed in it for so long. I know there's been stories of that he's told me about him being in the military. He would get himself purposefully in trouble to keep his rank down because otherwise he would feel horrible if he made a decision being a higher up and something happened to somebody because of his decision he made. He did tell me that. Um, he's told me about where he lived at. I think he was originally from Washington area, Washington State. But because he was in the military, he was all over the place. And um, growing up, he was always one to be the comic of uh, any situation. He would always make people laugh. Hi, April. It is good to see you. And Pops, one of the biggest memories I have of with Pops, because he's still alive, actually. I remember I was almost 10 years old. I was 9 that summer and I was supposed to turn 10. That was in 95, I think. I actually got to go up in the airplane with my grandpa. He had his pilot's license and he used to do some he used to do some flying around. He kept up his pilot license because, well, a lot of it was because he wanted to, and some of it was for his job. And he enjoyed flying. He enjoyed being the pilot. And when I'm talking about he took me up in the airplane, literally, there's this seat, there's the other seat. That was it. That was us. That was a really exciting time. I remember going up and I'm thinking, why does it feel like a roller coaster? And he would explain because we were such a small air in such a small airplane, the wings it was catching the wind and it would make it bouncy. So we got a little turbulence. To see what it's like from a smaller airplane point of view was amazing. There was actually clouds above the lake that was close to where the airport was that we took off from. And I did not appreciate have when he had to turn um, in the airplane. I didn't appreciate you have looking down, well, looking to the side and seeing that the ground was almost right there. And uh, but I'm really thankful for that. And I'm really thankful to see that he excuse me. Hold on just 1 second. I get coughing fits, I'm sorry. But I'm really thankful to have him in my life. He done a lot of traveling. He done a lot of I know he loved to fish. He's kind of more of a he tends to be more soft spoken, but he will stand up and talk to people. He's always had a comedic type of way um, with um, making his point across. He's usually really good on a barbecue, but there's been times that he's forgotten um, not to put barbecue sauce on something before it what was almost completely cooked. Still tasted good. Had just that little burnt twang to it. And he always encouraged me to come out of my shell some and to overlook the negativity as much as you can. And he's still really special. Since my Nana had passed, um, he's married again and doing pretty good. He seems to be really happy and enjoying himself. He's um, getting to do a lot more things that I think he would needs to enjoy. Because, like he said, he might not have a whole lot of time left. And he's always told me grandparents may seem like they're here for eternity, but they're human, and we all will pass away one day. And it matters what you do now and take the steps towards your future, because your future is just important as what's happening right now. So that's a bit about my pops. Moving on to my grandpa, which is my mom's dad. He was a World War II Navy Reserve sailor. And he actually has told me a bunch of stories about what happened while he was in the war. He would talk about family and little odds and ends, funny stuff that would happen with the family, but he was always proud to talk about. Um, Not that he was happy about it, but he said it's important for the younger generations to know the personal stories of what happened in their family, to help not repeat what happened then to happen again in the future. He also has actually went through the Great Depression when, by, if anybody doesn't remember in history class about the Great Depression, that's when the stock market really crashed. Banks, everybody started panicking. Everybody started withdrawing money. Um, Things were not as valuable during that time until things started picking up. Um, my grandpa was telling me about how he don't trust banks because of what happened then. He doesn't want it happening again. And there were a few stories from back then when he was young, that he was saying that people would try to steal just even a loaf of bread to feed themselves because they didn't have any money. They would work for hardly anything, and it was hard to afford anything that they had before the Great Depression. And then when he got in World War II, he explained that he was on a ship that was going to, I believe, Okinawa. You guys from the United States, y'all remember seeing the two or three soldiers that went to raise the flag in Japan? There's like a picture of of that I can't remember right offhand if it was Okinawa or not. So correct me if I'm wrong. But he said that at that time the ship was supposed to go was it's actually was on its way. Um, and actually, his the ship he was on its way to Japan to go fight, and um, while he was in the middle of the Pacific on that ship, they got attacked by kamikaze pilots, and quite a few people passed away during that battle, and it was uh, it was damaged pretty bad. So instead of going to that battle, they had to actually go to another location to not only try to fix the ship, but to help the wounded and all that good stuff. He uh he was one of those, we all have one family member that we love dearly, but sometimes we they come at the weirdest time, like you're not ready for them to come over and spend time with you and all that. Well, my grandpa had gotten to where some some of my aunts, not that they didn't enjoy his company, but they kind of called like my mom and my other aunts to give them a heads up that my grandpa was coming by, and they would keep in touch as he went and visited everybody. I remember him telling me how proud of he was when I did graduate high school. He asked me what I would do with the money that I got, and I told him I was planning on using it for the tuition to actually go into college. And at the time, I was going to planning on going into community college. And he said, good for you. He said, don't make the same mistakes as some of these other people do. And this is like credit card debt and all this other stuff. And I told him, I promise you, I'm not doing that, Grandpa. Excuse me. But he is the biggest reason why. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. But like what happened with my grandma and my nana happened with my grandpa. Um, Today, 6 years ago, November 20th, my grandpa actually was in a rest home for veterans, and he wasn't. He had been sick for a while, wasn't feeling good. He went in his room to take a nap, and he passed away. So, and it what to me was kind of ironic because my grandpa passes away 1 year. The next year, almost to the same day, Nana had passed, and they had divorced so long ago. They they still were civil to each other. They'd talk or whatnot, but I just found it kind of sad that they had passed so close together like that. And I know they are looking down at us. Um, I hope my biggest hope is I made him proud. Um, my pop says that he is proud of all his children and all his grandchildren, and I just hope I never let him down. But I'm very thankful for all the memories I have with him. I'm thankful for the history that I know, um, from being passed down from my parents to me to remember all this stuff. I'm grateful that they went through some hardships. Um, Even though I feel like nobody should go through hardships, but that the hardships actually make you stronger. And looking at some of the things that, even things I haven't said, you know, I'm just like amazed that they went through it and they're okay and they come out on the end. And without them, I definitely would not be here. And I'm just really thankful for them. And I appreciate the time that I did get to spend with my grandparents, because without them saying how important family is, I wouldn't look at my family the same way sometimes. Um, I wouldn't value people like I do. I wouldn't necessarily want to go to outings with them if I didn't value having family time. So I do want to thank them, and I pray that, I didn't embarrass them, and I hope that, looking down at me, they're not mad for anything that I've done or said. So that's what I'm thankful for. The last couple of days, to me, I've been thinking back on my grandparents and the kind of lives that they led. All of them have different stories, different things that they went through, but all in the end, it will come down to the same thing. They always encourage everybody to stick together because you're family. And I love my pops to death. I know he's still around. Um, and I'm very thankful for the services that my family dealt with and went through, and the things that they done to get where the family's at now, my parents are at now, and where I'm at now. So I'm done ranting. Well, not ranting, talking. Yes, Jen, I'd have to agree. Sometimes I forget those in the heat of a moment, but if I sit down and think about it, I tend to try to calm down a little bit. I appreciate y'all letting me talk about my family. Sometimes I want to be able to share stories of my family sometimes and share little things I remember, um, because I know if I keep talking about them and the memories that I share with them, it keeps their that energy, that kind of spirit alive, that they're not forgotten. And that's awesome, Jen, about your grandma. In April, I'm not exactly sure if there's going to be another stock market crash. I know um, I hadn't really been keeping up with the news, so I wouldn't know. And plus, I'm I don't ever get to really necessarily keep up with the stock market anyway. But yeah, I wanted to make this into two different videos, but I decided why not wait until right around midnight, do both of them at the same time. Um, I appreciate every single one of you coming. Now I am going to do something a little bit different on Friday. It looks like Friday may be the best time to do this. Wednesday, tomorrow night, I'm going to try to do a Midnight Madness, which the Midnight Madness is where anybody can get up and talk on panel, can talk about anything, no judgments, your opinion, willing to listen, anything that can go. Um, then there's, I think Thursday or Friday, I plan on doing kind of a product review on something that I think is going to be really beneficial for a lot of people. And we're also going to test this thing out also with my spirit box. So you guys kind of stay tuned for that. It's probably going to be Thursday or Friday. It's going to be an afternoon, evening time when I do that product review. And there is a couple other things I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to schedule it. And another thing, my Filmora has been giving me a fit. I'm fighting with it tooth and nail, and a lot of it has to do with the actual computer starting to act up. It's slowing down. Um, it's starting to cause a little bit of lag in here and there. But the Filmora wants to shut down on me. So I have no way to necessarily edit videos. So as far as videos, as soon as I can get it to work right, as much as I can, I will be putting out a video, and it's of the Riverside Cemetery that I went to with my sister, that I've done a small live stream on, and hopefully I can get that out. That's why y'all haven't went live. I've kind of figured, I mean, mine, it needs a new fan. It needs a little cleaned up, and hopefully it'll start running a little better. Um, I'm hoping not always. I don't think that is going to actually get back the way it was, but and the weekend I am actually going to um this weekend going to probably take a break. I'll be around and I'll probably hop on people's live streams and whatnot, but I'm just not going to do any live streams this weekend. But then starting back Monday, it'll be more of the I am thankful for videos and whatnot. I might do another wing talk. Thank you thinking of others. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry I cannot pronounce your name, KNZ. And thank you for coming. But I hope you guys enjoyed my little stories of my grandparents. This was in honor and memory of all my grandparents. And like I said, you know, the being able to talk about the stories actually keeps their memory alive, and it makes me feel like they're not gone, completely gone. I'm very thankful for them, for the memories I have with them and the stories that they have, but in their background before I even came along. And sometimes some of them are actually really amazing stories. I'm just not sure if I'm able to talk about them too much or not. But with all that being said, I appreciate every single person in here. Shout out to you guys. Um, all you guys are awesome. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Y'all are. There are some YouTubers that think of people as a number. I think of y'all as my family too, and I appreciate y'all. And thank you for listening to me. But with that being said, okay, Dave. Cool. It's fun. It's nice to meet you, Dave. So I am going to wrap this up. Much love to everybody here. And you guys just remember, you never know what's out there until you spread your wings and fly. This is Fallen Angel. And until next time.